Welcome back to our second topic in ecology. So we started the ecology unit in last week, and we are going to start talking about photosynthesis. So before we begin, let's just kind of look at what this week has. So you have to watch the lesson, and then there are questions along with some new vocabulary on Quizlet for today. Then you have go to the Ecology Weebly and use the green links on the Symbaloo so you can see there in the picture which ones I'm talking about, and answer the questions about plants and photosynthesis. Then finally, for the wrap up this week, you are going to review watching a short little video, and then you are going to complete the Google form check-in, which is 10 questions, and it will give you automatic feedback to check your understanding. And then the last thing I really want to make sure that you are doing is staying up to date on the vocab. So last week you had 5 vocabulary words. This week you have 3 to practice. So you have set 1 from last week and set 2 from this week to continue practicing on Quizlet, because next week we will have a very heavy amount of vocabulary words to learn. So if you already know the 8 from these past 2 weeks, it will make next week a lot easier. So make sure you're staying on top of that. And if you're having trouble getting into Quizlet, please let me know. So let's go back to the lesson. So what is photosynthesis and why do we need to learn about it? I guess would probably be your question. So photosynthesis is the process by which plants make their own food. So we talked about how we're going to talk about the ecology and ecosystems last week, and how ecosystems look at the non-living and the living objects in a set environment and see how they interact with each other. So we're going to start with plants, because without plants, would we be able to survive? I'm not going to answer that question. I want you, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to answer that question. So without plants, would we be able to survive? And not just yes or no, make sure you're able to explain and support why you think yes or no. So keep that in mind as we go through this lesson. So in order for plants to go through photosynthesis, they need to use some things in their environment, and they need all of these things or it's not going to happen. So they need to have carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. So they're in luck because carbon dioxide is something that we give off and our cars give off when we breathe out or drive our cars around. Water, right? It rains, the precipitation, or you're watering the plants if it's not raining for a while, because if you don't have all 3 of them, it's not going to work. And then sunlight. So let's talk about how each gets to the plant. So carbon dioxide goes in through the little pores of the leaf. So if you think about our skin, we have pores. Well, leaves have pores. They're actually called stomata. So the carbon dioxide goes in through the holes of the leaves, and then the water goes in, it's absorbed through the roots, and then goes up through the trunk into the stem and then into the leaves. So it's getting all to this right location. And then the sunlight is absorbed through the leaves with a chemical called chlorophyll. And that chemical is green. So that's what gives the plants their green color, the chlorophyll. So there are little centers within that leaf called chloroplasts, and that's where the chlorophyll is located. So this whole process of photosynthesis is happening in the leaves. So when sunlight, carbon dioxide, water, and chlorophyll are all in the leaves, photosynthesis occurs. And when that occurs, glucose, or sugar, that's what glucose is produced, and that's what plants eat. That's their food. while oxygen is given off. And that's what we need to live. So it's a win-win situation. They're taking in our carbon dioxide, but giving off our oxygen because they no longer need it. It's a byproduct. And they keep their sugar so they can keep growing and living. So that is the process of photosynthesis. You're going to hear me say it multiple times through this lesson. So since plants can make their own food, we call them producers. Producers are organisms that are able to make their own food using their environment. So they need their carbon dioxide, their water, and their sunlight, along with that chlorophyll in their leaves, and they're able to produce food. So if you think about it, remember my question is, would we be able to survive without plants? Well, plants interact with the sunlight and the heat and help support life on Earth. How do you think plants are important to your life? What do you mean support life on Earth? Don't worry, guys, on that document, you have a place to answer these questions that I'm posing. So plants are the only organisms that can use sun's energy to produce food. They produce their own food through the process called photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is where they use water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight to produce sugar, which is their food. So the root of it. I know, I'm so funny. So if we look again, here's another diagram. We have the water coming in the roots. There's chlorophyll that's already in the plant's leaves, carbon dioxide that's going into the leaves, and sunlight coming from the sun. So we need all these things, water, carbon dioxide, sunlight, and the chlorophyll that the plant already has for photosynthesis. Once they're all there, the plant makes sugar, which is its food, and then gives off oxygen for us to breathe. And this is a process that doesn't just happen at 6 o'clock, like how we eat dinner, maybe at a set time. This is a process they're always undergoing when all of these elements are there. So plants do not have a set meal time. So the reason it's green is because of the chlorophyll. And again, we call them producers since they make their own food. So are we producers then? So think about it. Do we go through the process of photosynthesis? I don't think any of you are standing out in your backyard right now to eat breakfast or lunch, right? We're not spreading our leaves, taking in sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and have chlorophyll. We have to go to the store. So since we have to go to the store, we are considered consumers. We are consuming in order for us to get our energy. You have to either grow your tomato plants and your lettuce, or go to the store to buy them, or go to the store to get your hamburger to eat. That's what gives us our energy. You can even think about the cake that you're eating. Well, where do you think flour comes from? How about the milk or sugar? Sugar is actually sugarcane, which is a plant. So going back to that question that I asked you at the very beginning, would we be able to survive without plants? I want you to tell me your answer in the document on Google Classroom. And with that, I'm leaving you a short little SpongeBob video that I thought was very fitting for today's lesson.